Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. As part of our Mind-Body Connection series, we'll continue to look more deeply at the three columns and their corresponding action steps. Today we are going to talk about using the columns together, how they affect each other and can enhance each other. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and I'll get back to you personally. Okay, so it's dawning on me more and more. As I explore my own work, I continue to understand new things, and one of the things that I'm finding is how the columns work together. It just keeps getting better and better in a way, which I'm really glad to see. Part of what that means to me is that I've set up a system that really works in the flexible way that I was hoping to. The beauty of the setup is that it allows you to separate the functions when necessary so that you can see them. But it also has the flexibility to show how they affect each other, how they interact with each other. And as a result, this is a system that can do much more than one thing. And any system that can do more than one thing is better than one that can't, especially if it's accurate. But each column gives you a leg up on the battle against pain and suffering in different ways. And we're going to look at how they affect each other. So how can each column affect each other? We're going to go one by one, just like I do in my system. We're going to go to the emotions column first. How does the emotions column affect the doubt column and the power column? Well, when we see our themes in action, it reduces doubt. It's just getting to see it in action makes it make more sense. Essentially, anything we do that makes things make more sense, it's going to reduce doubt. And that's really what the whole system is about. We are, after all, called crushing doubt. But a major way to reduce doubt, not just in seeing the themes in action, is this specific way that you can see them in action. If you happen to be able to, not everybody can do this or has this happen, but if it happens that you're able to pair an actual emotional theme with the onset or uptick of a symptom early on in the work, it can lead to a massive reduction in doubt because it's so clearly the case, especially if the symptom vanishes. There's nothing more compelling than that. This doesn't happen for everybody early in the work, but it does happen for everybody at some point in the work. And that's always going to be a great leap forward. That's the emotions column leading to a gain in the doubt column. So when we discover our emotional themes, our experience with power also becomes more in focus. In fact, finding the core narrative requires a pretty deep understanding of your emotional themes, because what it is you're taking all of those emotional themes and mashing it into one central theme. You know, like validity can cover all these different themes from the emotions column. So the power column really is rooted in the emotions column anyway, in a way. Finding what to do about that core narrative also requires that you understand your emotional life. So you need the emotions column to affect both of the other columns. Being able to control your symptoms by knowing your emotions column is part of what leads to power. And I would say, in fact, my understanding of the power column comes directly from that. One thing that I just want to remind everybody of, and this is how everybody has the experience with mind-body work, it all starts with the emotions column, I would say, even though other people aren't calling it the emotions column, because when we read Sarno, it's pretty much all about rage and emotion, and that's what gets talked about in most of the mind-body world. But if we follow it out, if we extrapolate it out to its natural conclusions, we find that there are other things that happen in this work, and included in that is once people alleviate the symptoms, they become much more powerful in their own life. And I thought to myself, well, if that keeps happening, that must be for a reason. Well, what it is the emotions column lends itself to the power column becoming stronger because it's much more in focus. Now you understand yourself better, and you essentially go from being someone who doesn't really know what's going on with yourself to somebody who knows what's going on with yourself at a level higher than most people, even who have had many, many years of therapy. So this is all emotions, the emotions column affecting doubt and power. If we look at it from the doubt perspective, the doubt column, what does the doubt column do to the emotions column and the power column? we find a lot of other great things. When we reduce doubt, we can see things more clearly. So if you're having trouble in your emotions column, it may be because doubt is just too strong. And one of the things that doubt does, in addition to being able to cause symptoms all in and of itself, is that it makes it so that we can't see clearly. So when you can have doubt and fear reduced, and when you get your questions answered and your confusion settled, you can suddenly see those emotional themes better, even though it's very nice to have them separated out into the columns for organizational purposes. But here's the thing about bringing down doubt and fear. What we're really doing, or at least one aspect of what we're doing, is bringing down the fight or flight response. And what this means is your brain is going to be functioning completely differently. So one thing that I know, and I learned this in grad school, but I didn't understand it as well as I do now at the time, is that when you bring down the fight or flight response, it's bringing panic and anxiety down, of course. And what this does is it reverses a pattern where panic and anxiety lowers processing speed. You literally think more slowly when you are panicked or in an anxiety state. To me, this makes perfect logical sense. But it's something that I want to highlight, because what's ending up happening is that when we work on doubt, we can actually think better. Not only that, we can prevent ourselves from having inaccurate perceptions. When the mind is in fight or flight, it's much more concerned with getting away from that lion, whether it's a figurative or a literal one. It doesn't care about accurate perception. It cares about safety. When you reduce doubt, you can start to get back to accurate perception, and that helps you in the emotions column. So reducing doubt also feels good, and this means that you will have more room to grow and understand yourself. This is constantly reinforcing the emotions column. Feeling more certain about the symptoms often leads to feeling more certain about other things, and this just includes emotional experience. What I mean to say by this is that when you reduce doubt, it starts to spread out. You can reduce doubt about the symptoms, and then you start to get reduced doubt about other things. It's almost like we don't know that reducing doubt is even possible until we do it in a particular area. This doesn't always happen with symptoms first. Many of us have reduced doubt in other ways. Coming out of the closet, for example, for gay people, I think is one of those times where they reduce doubt about one thing, and it opens doors to all kinds of other things. Or figuring out what you want to do in your career. These are things that reduce doubt, and suddenly it starts to expand outward. That's the doubt column helping with the emotions column. Now let's talk about how the doubt column can help the power column. Reducing doubt actually leads to the biggest upswell in power that I have ever experienced. Because the thing is, when I recovered from my back pain, I went from someone who felt lesser than everyone, less clear about things, to someone who was much more clear about things than everyone around me in most ways. So it couldn't have been a more dramatic change. You go from somebody who feels completely lost to somebody who feels more found than they ever thought they could. Once again, another way of understanding this, though, is the doubt column can help your power column. Now, the fact that the work in the doubt column all comes from science and logic not only gives you a sense of power coming from a good place, but it also can make you feel powerful from the vantage point that you're having a good relationship with yourself. You're seeing things accurately. And when we see things accurately, it feels really good. When we don't see things accurately, it does not feel good. So, when it comes to doubt affecting power, decreasing doubt makes you feel powerful across the board because you're learning how to use your mind to fight the things that haunted you. The power column has a lot to do with what haunted you. And most of the time what I've found is the greatest thing to counter those haunting feelings is to have certainty, not fake certainty, true certainty where you've looked at it and you feel like you understand it and you've decided how you're going to look at it. Another way of saying that is that certainty brings peace. You can't fake certainty, but when you get there, it brings peace. And that is where doubt leads to growth in the power column. So when we use the doubt column, the way it affects the power column, in addition to what I just said, is that you are becoming someone who is actively in your own corner, fiercely in your own corner, as I like to say, just by leading the charge in the fight against doubt. I walk around thinking, where's doubt? Where is it? Because it's going to seep into things. And I feel so powerful so much of the time because I'm just walking around crushing doubt the whole time. And it feels really good. That's the doubt column affecting the power column. Now let's look at how the power column affects the emotions and doubt columns. When you become powerful, you now have the capability to see more things because you aren't as threatened by what might be. The power column is all about being at peace, and it doesn't just start with it being at peace. That's not the way it works. But as you start to have it as one of your aspirations to be powerful, you know that you're going to try to look at things accurately. It's not a powerful position to look at things inaccurately. So another way of saying it, power leads to self-esteem, and this makes you less defensive so that you can let in more. That is power column work that leads to much more clarity in the emotions column. You may even find that you list all of your emotional themes, only to find that when you do power column work and you look back at them, you think, these weren't so sharply in focus. I can do better than this. Or maybe this theme doesn't even belong, and this one does, and I got to add one. So the power column, as we know, it leads with the core narrative, and this is an emotional mantra that rings true. And what it does is it buoys you up so that all of your emotional themes are more powerful because now they fit into a central narrative. It's almost like doing the work in the power column makes the emotions column much more understandable. This is part of what I love about this system. It's like one thing grows another, and it keeps going through that. So going through the process of the power column can often make those emotional themes sharper, more accurate, more effective, all of that. The power column also can have a profound effect on doubt. In fact, I've been finding more and more that this direction, power column affecting doubt, is one that it's kind of the one that I'm discovering the most right now because the power column is the newest of the three columns. So I'm finding what it can do, and man, can it do a lot. Here's the thing. When you are fighting off a tough opponent, the people who feel strongest, who feel really good, are going to have a much easier time doing it. And doubt is a very tough opponent. It's going to stick with it all the time. It's going to seep into every crack. It's going to try to get you in the most believable way. Being powerful can really help with doubt. In fact, recognizing doubt it's a power function in and of itself. So I was recently corresponding with someone, and she wrote this. She said, after I wrote to you, I suddenly thought, oh no, what if I'm not powerful enough to take back my power? And then she said this, slam that one right in the doubt column and put on some power ballots. So essentially what she was saying is, I was able to recognize doubt, and then the action step that I was able to take was to utilize the power column to go ahead and remind myself of my power. So that's a huge deal. And when you start using your power against doubt, doubt becomes really crippled. It can't function well when the power column is strong. Another interaction I had recently, I was talking to somebody about a moment where they were having a very hard time, and they were experiencing it in their body. And one of the things that I know is when we are starting to accept our trauma, we are beginning to process it, usually bodily, because a lot of times a lot of our trauma is pre-verbal. It comes from those early years. When I say pre-verbal, I don't necessarily mean exactly when you couldn't talk at all. But even when you couldn't talk that much, in those first 2 years, there's actually a lot of trauma that tends to go on for people there because kids don't understand what's happening and there's scary, difficult things happening. When you start to process things in your body, that's an even more full processing. And what that essentially is, if you can trust it, is the power column, because you are accepting, what I'm feeling right now is me. and I understand that. And that is going to go a long way in hammering doubt. So remember, in last week's mind-body connection series, I talked about how to understand the mind-body defense and how each column represents a different mind-body process. So you take away one function and the rest collapse. I talked about emotions as the distraction aspect. This is a little bit of an oversimplification, but it is helpful to be able to, because it's not always exactly this way, but the emotions tend to be about the distraction aspect. If you take that out, the system doesn't function in the same way, and the other columns get stronger. Power is the communication element. If you get that communication, that column becomes stronger, and it can buoy up the other two. And if you take out doubt, the fuel is gone, or the glue that's holding it all together is gone. So using one column against a problem in another allows you to have the maximum options to address problems. And all of this is an extension of the fact that we can use the emotions column to take apart any distraction element of the mind-body experience, or we can use the power column to take away the need for the body to continue to communicate its message since it has been received, or we can use the doubt column to shut off the fuel supply of a mind-body symptom. Once again, all three columns, you can shut down one function, and that whole defense starts to crumble. The columns support each other in this way. The other thing it means is you are never without a potential solution. There's lots of ways to do this. And this is why the three-column system is so effective. It covers more territory than I had found in my own search for answers. It's flexible, but it's accurate. And it can allow you to have both a broad, general understanding and a chance to develop your specific personal model for yourself. So actually, I was thinking about this recently because we're starting up my seminars. The seminars can be particularly helpful because they really are an in-depth look at each of these columns. And if you can understand how the different columns interact, it will go a long way. So if you're interested in those, you can contact me at dan@crushingdoubt.org. Thank you so much for watching this. I do hope this was a helpful illustration of how the columns work together. And let's talk about it. So if you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and I'll get back to you personally.